Hey everybody, it's Josie here. So I wanted to give you all a quick update on kind of how I'm doing in the Queer Lit Readathon. So this is kind of going to be a bit vloggy. I'm not very good with editing or anything, so literally this is going to be one take update on what I'm reading and how I'm finding the book so far and kind of what's going on in my Queer Lit Readathon. So I've got it here on my shelf. I don't think the lighting's great, but we'll just go with it. So you can see I've got my lovely rainbow here, which is inspiring me for my Queer Lit month. June is also, it's basically kind of like Pride Queer Visibility Month. So I think it's obviously really cool to have the readathon in this month. Now, I had a whole bunch of books on my TBR, and I'm kind of relatively sticking to them except for one. So I'll start with this. This book, where is the cover? So this book, it's currently coverless because it arrived and I kind of had to immediately start it because this is probably if not one of the most anticipated books for me this whole year. So if I put the dust jacket on, you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about. It's this here, The Lost Coast by Amy Rose Capetta. It's great, like the woods and the kind of the rainbow colors, and I love it, but I always take the dust jacket off when I'm reading it. So basically, all I needed to know about this book is, first of all, Amy Rose Capetta. Let's talk about Amy Rose Capetta for a second. So I know people have kind of differing views on Amy Rose Capetta. Sorry, my mouth is really dry, like my J mug. So they have, I think some people really like her book, some people don't. The very first book I read of hers was The Brilliant Death, and I think I actually read that for another readathon because Cece was talking about it from Problems of a Book Nerd, and it sounded really interesting, and it had queer lady fantasy fiction, which is very much there for, and I kind of like had to read that, so I was like, yes, this sounds like my jam. The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta, and I read that and I really enjoyed that, and I love the fact that Amy Rose Capetta kind of plays with gender roles, and she has kind of I suppose non-binary characters, but she really kind of discusses gender in that, and I love that. So then I read Once and Future. I've just read that a while ago, and that's kind of a King Arthur retelling with like a female King Arthur set in space. Very bizarre. I know a lot of people did not get on with it. I quite liked it. It was weird enough for me to like, kind of like weird books. And then Lost Coast, which I just, I've been anticipating this coming out. All I needed to know, and the synopsis was basically a whole bunch, I think it's 6 queer witches. That's all I needed to know. Witchcraft, queer girls. Yeah, I'm reading it. And like I said, I got it. Mr. Amazon man very kindly delivered it like within a day, and I did admit this wasn't on my original TBR. It could fall into the fantasy section, so I can still use it, but I was very excited when I got it, so I started reading it. And my initial thoughts are, I mean, the first couple of, the writing style is weird. It's almost like the chapters are like short, almost like tiny like short stories sometimes, and you have different perspectives. So you have the perspective from one character, another character, the trees, the ravens, the school. It's really interesting. I struggled maybe for the first 20 pages, just kind of going, oh, this is a bit weird. But then after that, I really liked that. I love that aspect. And then I'm paging through the book, so I'm trying to find it. I love this. It says, I don't know if you can read that. It says, for the weirdos. I love that, because one of my favorite quotes is The Craft, and when they get off the bus in The Craft, and she says to the bus drivers, like, girls, watch out, like, for the weirdos out there, and Nancy goes, we are the weirdos. And I love that. So yeah, you know, and obviously anything witchy, crafty, anything, and this is queer witches, and yeah, I really like it. I'm like on page 100, and yeah, it's good. I like it. I will do like a full synopsis, but I'm really liking this so far, and I like the writing style. I think it's a bit different, but I like it. And then the other thing I was really excited about coming was, I didn't know if this was going to come in time for the readathon, but it did. It's this book over here, Fire. This is the second book in the Engels Force trilogy, and I wanted to now, didn't quite appreciate how thick this book is, so if I'm totally honest, I might start it, because I am really dying to figure out all to here see, read what kind of happens in this trilogy. And again, this is about teen witches, but it's in Scandinavian Sweden, and it's translated. And I like the kind of, I've said this a few times, but sort of the Scandi noir element of it in a way that it's not so like the Lost Coast is set in the States, in California, but this one is kind of more, yeah, because it's set somewhere else. I feel it has a certain element to it. And again, you've got like great queer rep in here, and magic and mayhem and demons. And yeah, it's definitely a book I want to get to, but for the readathon, there's no way I'm going to finish that. But I want to start it, at least try. So, but I was really excited that actually came, because I wasn't sure. When I did my TBR video, I just had The Circle, which is the first book, and I wasn't sure this was going to come, and it did. So yay. And this was ordered second hand off Amazon as well, Marketplace. You can see it's a bit dilapidated, but I like getting my books second hand because I think it's cool with the whole like recycle thing. And then the other two books that I've actually started, so because apparently I can't stick to reading one book at a time, I need to read 3 currently. The other two I've got is The Danish Girl, and I've just started this. This is like really famous. I think a lot of people have actually either read this or seen the film, and it's not an autobiography. It's not, like the author even says in the back, he was very heavily inspired by basically the first transgender woman in Denmark. He's very inspired by that, but it is a fictional tale, so it's about him and his wife, or her and her wife, and then he starts as male and he transforms and becomes a woman. And yeah, like I said, this has been something I've really wanted to read for ages. Haven't seen the film, kind of held off on watching the film because, yeah, I want to read the book. And I've started it, and so far I'm liking it. I will say historical fiction is not necessarily my favourite thing in the world. Even as much as I like Sarah Waters, you know, Fingersmith is great. Her books are fantastic, and they're very sapphic. So, of course, you know, historical fiction that's sapphic, I'm going to be there for. But historical fiction is not my favourite thing. I sometimes find them quite... oh, I don't know. I suppose it's a different time, different thinking. I don't know. It's just not necessarily I prefer contemporary settings, or at least sort of 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s. When we're talking historical, like, it's not necessarily my favorite thing. But having said that, the writing's really easy. It's, you know, and just having started this, I really like it. I don't know why, because it's a totally different narrative, but it reminds me a little bit of the Girl with the Pearl Earring by Tracy Chevalier, which I really, really like. And again, that's historical fiction. Not necessarily my jam, but it's a book that I really, really like. So yeah, so this is good. I think this is going to be good. I'm definitely going to finish this. Yeah, and I'll give you more of my thoughts on it. But so far, yeah, I like it. I think it's interesting, this kind of fictionalized view of someone feeling uncomfortable, obviously, in their skin and their gender. And I quite like the relationship between that he's having with his wife Greta. So Einar is his male name, and Greta is his wife. And I quite like the relationship. It's interesting, although there are a few things in here. Greta makes some jibes almost at him, and he dresses up, so it starts off very much, you kind of really get thrown into it, where he's actually wearing, they're both painters, they're both artists, and she is doing a portrait of someone, and she basically says to him, oh, I know this woman, she's not available, can you put her stockings on and her shoes, because I need to be able to paint this, but just, you know, we can use you as a model. And then she kind of gets him to put on this woman's dress, and then he's like, oh, but don't tell anyone. And then she invites this woman in, and she's like, oh, look at Einar, and he's in the dress, and they both have a bit of a giggle. I'm not really liking that. I thought that was a bit, so it's weird with Greta. I don't know where I'll fall on the scale with Greta, whether or not I like her or I don't. But yeah, I think this is interesting and poignant, and I think just a really important read as well. Drink. Coffee, elixir of life. And then the other one that I'm reading, this is the best cover for queer lit, is this one here. It's All the Invisible Things by Oleg Collins. Again, I'm really early on. This is page 80, so chapter 10. Oh, I need to show you this. So I thought you have to have the most appropriate bookmark for this book and for the readathon. Isn't that fabulous? Yeah. So this is, I love, this is actually a card that my mom got me, but I use it as a bookmark, and I just thought this is the bookmark that needs to be used for the readathon, for queer lit. But yeah, so this one is Oh God. Okay, so our main character is Vetty, and she has kind of been. So it starts off where her and her sister and her father are staying with their her aunt and her aunt's wife, or soon to be wife. They're about to get married, and because her mother had died, I think it was like 4 years earlier. So they've kind of almost been in hiding in Cambridge. This is set in the UK, and it starts where they are packing up to move back to London. So back to Camden, which is very cool. I didn't realize it was Camden. I love Camden. Camden is one of my, this is such a tangent. Camden is one of my favorite places in London. It is, you know, once a goth, always a goth. It's very gothy, it's very witchy. So that was kind of the center of goth culture way back in the 80s and 90s. And it's a very much an alternative. I think it's, I will say now, I think it's a lot more commercialized than it was back when, but it is, if you like alternative scene, if you like alternative clothing, if you like kind of all of that, there's great music venues like the Roundhouse, and there's great, like if you're a vegan, they do like great dirty vegan food and stuff. But anyway, that's such an aside. If you're ever in London, go to Camden, it's cool. But yeah, they actually live in Camden, which I quite like, so I like that element of the book. Again, obviously, it's in London, I like that. And anyway, so her family moves back to London, and she reconnects with her childhood best friend, who's a boy whose mother is an actress. She's quite a famous TV actress. And it's kind of, you know, so far it's talking about that. It's also talking about, so just before she leaves, she's in her group of sort of girlfriends, and they're talking about sex and boys and stuff. And so Vetty is sort of coming to the realization that she might be bisexual, and kind of what that means, and how she should express that. So we'll see how that shapes up. That, I think that's going to be an interesting storyline. I think the friendship between her and Pez, I think he's, or Pez, is, I don't think I'm saying that right, but I said as Pez in my head, yes, Pez, is interesting. It feels slightly like, I don't know, I think he feels like he's changed a lot from when she remembers him. So he feels a little bit troubled, which is interesting. And then you've got these great kind of side characters, which are her aunt and her aunt's fiance, and this kind of side story of them getting married soon, which I think is really sweet and lovely. And yeah, you kind of have that, her internal dialogue at the moment of whether or not she is bisexual and how she identifies and that. So I think that's cool. I'm kind of looking forward to see, yeah, like I said, I'm only on page 89, but I'm kind of looking forward to see how that shapes up and how that kind of develops. So that is my reading vlog at the moment. That's what I'm doing. In terms of just Pride Month as well, I'm trying to, like, obviously I'm doing the readathon now, but for the rest of the month, I'm going to basically be reading queer lit. So any books that are even remotely queer, that's what I'm going to be reading. So I really want to stick to that for Pride Month, and kind of do pridey things. I've got a couple of films I want to watch, and yeah, just kind of like really immerse myself in Pride Month. So yeah, so that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know if you did or not. Let me know. Let me know if you are reading any of these books. Let me know if you're participating as well. I'd love to know what you're reading. And I will do another vlog later on, tell you how I get on with these books, and tell you if I'm reading anything else. So yeah, have a good rest of your day. I'm going to drink the rest of my coffee and stop coughing. And I will see you again soon. Bye.